Good morning, everybody, to the S&D press conference today with a female panel in the absence of our group president, Gianni Pittella, who cannot be here this week due to meetings he has outside. I will hand over to our Vice President, Kathleen van Bremt, responsible for sustainability, who will lay down the priorities for us this week. And then, of course, there's time for your questions.
Well, good morning to you all in this first press conference of this year. So Happy New Year to you all, and let's make it an interesting political year. I'm ready to do that in any case. I will put extra emphasis on the clean energy package. As you can understand, it's one of my vital issues as a vice president responsible for that. But let me start with the debate with the Prime Minister of Ireland. First of all, I can assure you that this is for our S&D group very important. It's the first of a series of debates on the future of Europe. And in this crucial year, this is a year where we will prepare, of course, also the next European elections, and a discussion on the future of Europe is very important. For us, there are some very important priorities. First of all, it is important that Europe connects again with economic growth, but it should be sustainable economic growth. Important as well, as you know, we've been very vocal on the issues on tax fraud, and that should be one of the priorities in Europe. The social pillar, of course, you know our point of view on the social pillar. We're very happy that there is a social pillar. It's a very important first step, but we need hard legislative measures, and I want we want also the Commission and the Council to deliver on that. Social issues is not just soft, but it should be hard law as well. Approving as soon as possible also the reform of the Dublin system. Migration and asylum policies will remain key in Europe, and it is very important that we stand united. The Parliament does on the crucial issues. I think it's important that so does the Council. And of course, when the Prime Minister of Ireland is coming to visit us, we need to outline again and again what we think is important in the Brexit discussions, and underline also the importance of the peace process in Ireland. That is very crucial. So that will be the main issues in the discussion on the future of Europe. Let me, and then afterwards, of course, you can ask me all sorts of questions. I don't know whether I can answer them all, but you can do. Then I would like to take some time to take you into the clean energy package. I cannot stress enough how important this is. Energy is one of these topics that is in the core of sustainable policies, but in that sense, it's also in the core of what we believe as an S&D group. And that's the reason why we took the lead on important files. We have both the rapporteur on energy efficiency as we have the rapporteur on the renewable directive, which are the two main topics that we will vote together with the governance on Wednesday and are key in the clean energy package. Yesterday, I made a reflection on the solar aircraft, and I want to explain that again for those who didn't listen to the very interesting debate of yesterday. Why did I do that? I don't know whether you know that aircraft. It's a solar aircraft. It's an aircraft that can fly around the world in one time, only on solar energy. And I think nobody of us, but you can correct me, but nobody of us would believe that would be possible at such a short notice. And it did. And how did that happen? Because people believed in that, European companies invested in that. Bernard Picard, who's an adventurer, took the lead on that. And it happened because you need to do two things. If you want to be successful in renewable energy, you need to be energy efficient. And that's what they did. They made a plane that was so light and that got rid of all the ballast. And then it was possible to do that flight, also when it was night. Why do I stress that? Because the two files, energy efficiency and the renewables, are interconnected very closely. We as an S&D, we believe that it is possible in Europe to have an energy system that is fully based on renewable energy. If we want to achieve that, we have to stress energy efficiency. And that's why we took the lead on energy efficiency. You know what our point of view is. We need 40% by 2030. The Council came up with a very weak 30% target. And although a lot of political groups supported that, we moved the whole Parliament in the right direction. And I don't know what will happen. It's always very interesting on the vote. I still believe 40% is a good and an ambitious, I know, target. Probably we will land on the 35% because that has been tabled by the ALDE and the EPP, also the Greens, for a binding 35% target. In any case, we will improve. The situation has been put out by the Commission. Article 7, I'm not going to go into detail. It's very technical, but please, it's not just important to have the 40%, but also have a very strict Article 7. Also on the public buildings and on energy poverty, you can imagine how important it is for our group not just to have sustainable energy, but also have affordable energy and access of every European citizens to clean energy. And in that sense, combating energy poverty is very important. The Renewables Directive, we had the same issues on the target. There we have a broad majority on the 35% target binding for the EU, and that is extremely important. Again, 27% has been put forward by the Commission. That is weak. It's not more than business as usual, so it's very important that we push that to a higher level. There's, of course, a very important issue on the biofuels as well. You know, we need to get rid of the first generation. The Commission proposed to go to phase that down to 3.8%, from the 7% to the 3.8%. We made another sort of compromise to make sure that we have all the groups on board and to make sure that we have a sort of cap. And very important, the cap starts at 2017. Finally, on the clean energy package, I want to stress two important issues as well, and I hope we will find a majority tomorrow because it is extremely important. People know that renewable energy is something that we need to achieve, that is something that is rational, but people in Europe, and rightly so, become emotional when it comes to their trees, and rightly so. So cutting trees just to burn them for our energy is unacceptable. And in that sense, we tabled an amendment. I did that together with Jo Leinen and the Greens to make sure that we cannot get any green energy out of full trees, only the rest part of it. Last point is on the fuel station. It's maybe not the biggest issue, but it's an important issue, and I hope we can get a majority tomorrow. We would like the member states to oblige the member state that 90% of their fuel stations along the 10T core high network in Europe is equipped with a fast charging infrastructure. The last point I would like to make before I give you the floor, well, I will give you the floor, is I hope that this week we will have and find a majority in the Conference of Presidents to establish a special committee on the glyphosates. It's been now an ongoing issue. It hasn't been decided in the conference because we didn't have a majority. You know, we have tabled a mandate to the Conference of Presidents together with the Greens and the GUE, and we need at least another political group to have a majority, and I'm hopeful that it will happen on Thursday. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kathleen van Bremt. Now it's time for your question. Anybody has a question? Yes, please.
Oui, Monsieur Mali, journaliste de...
Yes, Mr. Mali, I'm from the Kurd television. Since yesterday, the Turkish army has been deployed along the Syrian border to attack the area controlled by the Kurds and the international coalition. What would your group's position be? What would the European Parliament's position be on this state of affairs, given that it could lead to a new war in an area in which 3 million people live?
Personally, also very concerned with the Kurdish situation in my city in Antwerp. We have a very important group of Kurdish citizens, so I think it's something that we all should be very worried about. But I'm not a specialist in foreign affairs. The line of the group is to make sure that first of all, it's very important that we have Mogherini in the Commission, and she's taking, I think, a very important line in protecting the Kurdish citizens and make sure that we have human rights in place in Turkey. So I think it's important. Any very specific questions you should address to Mogherini or Kati Peri, who is our main rapporteur on these issues. But I can assure you, we are very concerned about the situation in Turkey, and we follow that very closely.
Merci. Anna, oui.
Anna Vandensky from Brussels Diplomatic. My first question is on Kenya, because the situation is very tense there. What is the stand of your political group? And my second question is on Catalonia, because the elected president, Puigdemont, said that he will run his responsibilities from Skype. So how you evaluate the state of democracy in Spain if an elected politician can't come back to his electorate?
Well, you all ask me questions about foreign affairs issues. On Kenya, I'm very sorry. You should ask your question, and we will make sure that you can get into contact with our two vice presidents, Elena Valenciano and Victor Bostinaro. And I'm also a close friend of Marietje Schaake, who has been head of the mission in Kenya. So I think they're the right people to address that question. And a little bit the same on Catalonia. We do have a lot of discussions in our group on Catalonia, and we do have different points of view on how we need to make sure that the rule of law is applied in all the member states. But it's very, very difficult for me to interfere and to take a point of view today on that issue. We will have discussions in the group later on. And please address also our people of the PSOE in our group to get their opinion.
Est-ce qu'il y a d'autres questions? Yes.
Are there any more questions, please?
Thanks, Peter Teffer with EU Observer. Two questions, one inward-looking, one outward-looking. This morning at the debate on the Estonian presidency, I didn't see you or many of your colleagues present in the room. There were maybe 10 S&D members. What's the reason that so few people show up for a debate like that, and what's your personal reason? The outward-looking question is your thoughts on the ideas floated last week by Commissioner Oettinger on introducing a plastics tax and having ETS money flowing straight to the EU budget. What would need to be the characteristics of those ideas for you to support it?
Aha, the second question is in my competences. First of all, the first question is, it's an ongoing issue, of course. You know that in Strasbourg, having these meetings from the morning till the late evening, and it's impossible for all of us to be there. You know, we have other meetings, but it's a just question. Don't get me wrong. It's a just question. One of the reasons that I'm sitting here alone, normally I would be sitting here with Maria Joao, the other vice president, but she's there in the plenary to make sure that we have a good representation and that we have a good speech and a good talk on the Estonian presidency. Having said that, I think we should make sure that we're there. We should make sure that we have a clear message. And I can tell you that we are very happy with the Estonian presidency. They did a very good job, and that will be the message that we will bring. On the second issue, very important for all of you to know, most of you will, but the Commission will take a point of view today on the plastic strategy. And that will be led by Frans Timmermans, who is the Commissioner responsible for sustainability. We're very much looking forward to that strategy, and I want to stress that because I think we are, as a European Union, the first in the world to take up a strategy like that, and that is extremely important. If we don't do anything, in the future we will have more plastic than we will have fish in our oceans and our seas. So it's a very huge challenge, and I'm very proud that Frans Timmermans and the Commission are taking this up in a strategy. We don't know all the details yet. There will be a press conference in the afternoon. Please be there, led by Frans Timmermans on these issues. And I don't know for sure whether or not there will be a tax on plastic bags in that. But for us, so first of all, for us as a group, we will support the plastic strategy. We will outline our ambition in that. And I personally think that a tax on plastic bags can be part of a strategy for the future. You always need to make sure that you have good ambitions on what should be in our products, and there you need a good strategy on microplastics. You need to be sure that every plastic in the future is reusable and recyclable. And you also need a sort of policy where you say to people it's no longer acceptable that we use plastic for bags. So I believe that it can be of a help, and it's already possible for member states to have a tax on plastic bags. So I personally would absolutely be in favor of that. It would give a good signal to the rest of the world that we would have a tax on plastic bags. So I support that, but I think it's important to have a good assessment. How will it look like? How do we do that? So that's the first point. The second point is a little bit different on the position of Oettinger. Our group is absolutely in favor of own resources. And when we talk about own resources, we could look into carbon taxation, for instance. We could look into everything that is related to the financial transaction tax, very important for our group. But a tax on plastic bags is a sort of tax that you implement to make sure that you get rid of plastic bags. So that in the beginning you have a lot of revenues, and then it will go down. What you want is it goes down to zero. So it's not a very good and solid base for own resources. You could use the revenues to invest in, for instance, circular economy. That would be a good idea, to invest in more research and development. It's extremely important in the circular economy. But as a stable revenue of own resources, that's maybe not the right, taxation. But fine. But final point, I am in favor of taxation on plastic bags because I think we should get rid of plastic bags.
One follow-up question, and then we have to close because the time runs off.
Yeah. I'll follow up on the first issue, because the European Parliament itself is in charge of its agenda. So shouldn't you then decide to have less debates if MEPs are too busy for attending them?
I'm not going to give my complete personal opinion. I think if we would be a parliament with one seat, then every week you would have group meetings, you would have committee meetings, and you would have plenary debates every week. And then you can have every week an important debate on what is at stake at that moment, and then plenary debates on important legislative files and things like that. But if you have a week a month where you have plenary debates all of the time, then you need to do everything in that week, and that's the result. But I agree, we're in charge of our own agenda, but it's a very, very full agenda.
Ending with a clear personal statement from Kathleen van Bremt. Have a good week, everybody, and see you soon.